Hi, my name is Aubrey Bollinger, and this is for my public communication class at Labette Community College. Today I will be explaining why not all psychopaths are criminals and killers, and how they can even be considered functioning members of our society. I've been interested in all forms of psychology for a couple of years now, but I really find the minds of people like psychopaths very interesting. Just because the film industry seems to only portray psychopaths as serial killers and rapists doesn't always mean this is true. Most psychopaths excel in what is deemed as normal life and are usually pretty good at functioning day to day. Psychopathy is a common term used to describe a grouping of personality traits that includes such things as impulsive behavior, lack of regard for others, and lack of a normal range of emotional responsiveness. People who have these traits are known as psychopaths. However, the American Psychiatric Association, which publishes the primary rule/guidebook for diagnosing mental illnesses in the United States, they don't use the term psychopath. The closest equivalent they have to psychopathy in the American Psychiatric Association guidebook is a condition called antisocial personality disorder, or ASPA. ASPA is a mental condition in which a person consistently has no regard for right or wrong and ignores the rights and the feelings of others. They show no guilt or remorse for their behavior. So ASPA is essentially psychopathy, but to a lower degree. So psychopaths tend to be more, they tend to have less emotion than people with ASPA. And then according to some estimates, psychopathy is found in only about 1% of Americans in the general population. And then for reasons that are not really understood, usually most psychopaths are male. We are now going to talk about some common misconceptions amongst psychopaths. The first one is that they are, insane. Legally, psychopaths aren't insane. What they are unemotional, detached, things like that. But to be actually considered insane, you see things and hear voices, and psychopaths don't hear voices and they don't experience hallucinations. Their thoughts aren't skewed by delusions or people talking to them. It's just they have a lack of remorse for people, so they don't realize what they're doing is technically wrong. The second misconception is that prisons are packed full of psychopaths, 80-90% are all psychopaths, which is really the opposite. Only about 15 to 20% of prisoners in the American prison system are considered psychopaths, which still is quite a lot, but it's not nearly as much as some people would consider, or some people would think that there is. And then the third common misconception is that psychopaths display no emotions. They don't have any emotions, they don't feel, and that they can't have emotions, which is not true. Psychopaths actually appear quite capable of certain emotions. Usually they're more negative emotions like sadness and anger, which clearly goes into the fact that they do sometimes harm people. Not always, but they are known for hurting people, because if the only emotion they feel is anger, then that's the only emotion they can act upon. So that probably is not a very good thing. But psychopaths do tend to excel in professional settings, because overly emotional people are not good in business settings. Their judgment is clouded by a desire to please people and protect the people that they care about in their workspace. But psychopaths don't do that. Emotional people struggle to make tough decisions because of the ramifications that they could have on other people. But in the competitive workplace, empathy is actually discouraged because it might interfere with the job you need to do and the people you need to work for. It's a very common phrase to leave your emotions and personal issues behind when you're heading to work. But psychopaths don't need to worry about that, basically. They're all pretty assertive. They don't procrastinate. They don't tend to focus on positives or negatives, and they don't take things personally. These kind of characteristics are all things that are kind of important in the business area and day-to-day life. Not to the extent that they have, but you can't take everything personally, and them taking nothing personally definitely doesn't slow them down in a harsh business environment, which is why a lot of psychopaths that are not bad per se are usually like in Wall Street or work in businesses or CEOs and things, because they are not taking anything personally, so they're just excelling right ahead in their professional work life. In 2010, a group of three psychoanalysts named Paul Babick, Robert Hare, and Craig Newman had the chance to examine psychopathy in 203 individuals from a bunch of different companies that were rising up. These individuals are people on their way to becoming CEOs, or they started from a really low position in their job, but they are steadily rising up, which is something that psychopaths do pretty quickly. So they were testing to see how many of these 203 people fell on the psychopath scale. And roughly 3% of the 200 people assessed in this scored in the psychopathic range, which is way above the 1% of general population people who are considered psychopaths, which clearly demonstrates that they do excel in business opportunities. In conclusion, just because the film industry seems to only portray psychopaths as serial killers and rapists and criminals doesn't really mean it's true. A lot of psychopaths excel what is deemed normal life and are usually pretty good at functioning day to day, and especially in the business settings.